Yes and no. I mean, there are a few VCs that I've met that really understand a lot. They probably have been, working in technology business themselves, or they have started a web company. But those guys are really, really switched on. At the same time, you still find VCs who, I think, focus too much on worked out business plans and forecasts, and so I think that's a potential problem, but they're certainly out there. I mean, there's certainly investors in London who are worthwhile talking to. So you don't actually, I don't think, right now in London, you don't need to go to Silicon Valley if you want to start a company. I think that's rubbish. Sometimes you should go there, because there's this whole debate, London versus Silicon Valley. I mean, first of all, we have the internet, for Christ's sake. You can actually talk to people in Silicon Valley. But at the same time, yes, you should go to conferences, yes, you should meet people there, and if your company needs certain talent, needs to meet certain people, then spend some time over there. And maybe at some point, if you're big enough, you might have 2 offices. Or, some companies also work with developers abroad. So, as a matter of fact, many companies in Europe already have developers in countries that are a bit cheaper than London. Poland, Ukraine, Estonia, Italy. But that's what business is all about. Business is about what makes sense. And if it makes sense to go to Buenos Aires, then go to Buenos Aires. So I don't really get this whole debate, Silicon Valley versus London.
And talking of that, you seem to be taking the Minibar franchise overseas.
Well, we had one minibar earlier this year in Milan, in Italy, in the Design Museum, and it was really great. But it was very Italian in the regards that it was so much posher. It had more than 200 people, and everybody was in a suit, and had champagne afterwards and the whole shebang. So it was really cool. And as opposed to Minibar here, we had actually 12 presentations, I think. So it was like just much more going on. And well, just this Friday, somebody asked me if she could do a Minibar in Lithuania. And yeah, sure, go for it. If you are, somewhere around Europe and you like the format, and then why not start a Minibar?
Will there be a Minibar in Dublin?
Well, I think at some point there will be, but Minibar is still a kind of more like a hobby than an actual business. We receive sponsorship, and if anybody watches this video and thinks Minibar is great, I mean, it will be amongst Sun and Truephone and BBC and Channel 4, so they all certainly think this is a good thing, and many startups. Then, send me an email. But it is not, Minibar is still done in the spirit of bar camps. So, yes, because lots of sponsorship goes to actually providing free beer. And it doesn't cost anything to go to a Minibar. I think this is also what has changed. I think in the past, people would have done events only if people would have paid, £30 at least to come to an event, or if it's a conference, lots more. But yeah, like many Web 2 services are essentially free to use, so are many events in this area. And that is probably how also many business models are shaping up. It's not free completely, but it's a kind of barrier to entry is free. So the greatest analogy for me is actually mobile phones. First they came to the market, they were horribly expensive, only kind of an elite of business bankers, investment bankers or highly paid lawyers used them because they could afford to have I don't know, upfront £1,000 or £2,000, buy a phone and then start using it. And now you have a phone that doesn't cost you anything, but then you're tied obviously into a contract. So people use that psychology to make money in other fields. And Web 2 has brought this just more towards, well, it's actually always free to use. And I remember at the kind of beginning, people were actually putting into their, what is all this about? What are we doing? Will it always be free in the FAQ? And say, yes, we will always be free, as if this would be necessary to state. Well, obviously it was, because we hadn't seen many business models that operated like this. You know, when you started the service before, you had your business and revenue stream were quite the same thing quite often. You know, your business was to sell pharmaceuticals. How do you make money? Well, you sell more pharmaceuticals. Cars the same. And you know what they cost, and you know how much they cost to produce and market, and that's the way you arrive at a profit. Very, very simple. And now it's much more the revenue streams you build on top of service. So first you need to build something that's really valuable to people, and valuable can mean entertaining or actually make life easier. And that's one thing I would like to see a bit more, the things that make life easier as opposed to are just entertaining. Because now we have all these tools, Web 2 tools, and I guess everybody knows what I'm talking about. But it can be used to make actually my life easier. And that's where I feel we don't actually see as many startups. They mostly deal with what I would call gadgetry. And that's one thing I find a bit boring in the meanwhile. Show me stuff that makes, you know, moving house easier. Things like getting my car insured. Where kind of the physical and the web converge. You know, those businesses are obviously more difficult to build, but this is what I would like to see. You know, where's my virtual concierge service?